There is a deep truth about the human heart that most people never stop to understand. When someone is afraid of love, love does not disappear, it disguises itself. An avoidant soul does not fall loudly, it falls quietly, almost secretly, even from itself. And if you know how to listen beyond words, you will hear it. If you know how to see beyond actions, you will recognize it. The first hidden sign appears when distance turns into consistency. Not dramatic gestures, not sudden confessions, but presence. They begin to show up. Not because they are chasing you, but because their inner world is slowly rearranging itself around you. The avoidant fears losing freedom, yet they willingly return to the same connection again and again. This is not habit. This is attachment forming in silence. When someone who values escape starts choosing consistency, it means something inside them has already chosen you, even if their mouth refuses to say it. The second sign is subtle but powerful. Their silence becomes intentional. Avoidant individuals are known for emotional withdrawal, but when feelings grow, that withdrawal changes texture. They still struggle to express, but they stay connected. They don't disappear the same way. Their quiet becomes a form of listening, watching, learning. They remember what you say. They notice patterns. Love for them does not announce itself, it observes. And observation is the beginning of devotion. The third sign is control, slowly loosening its grip. Avoidants survive by controlling emotional exposure. But love destabilizes control. You'll notice moments where they share something personal and immediately regret it. They may joke it away or shut down afterward. Do not mistake this for disinterest. It is the nervous system panicking because it has revealed something sacred. Vulnerability for them feels like standing unarmed in a storm. Yet they still step forward. That courage is love trying to breathe. The fourth sign is when independence begins to include you. Not dependence, this is important, but inclusion. They invite your presence into their routine, their thoughts, their decisions. They may not say, "I miss you," but they check where you are. They may not say, "I need you," but they make space for you. Love does not always ask to be held. Sometimes it asks to be allowed. And when an avoidant allows you into their inner rhythm, they are already emotionally invested. The fifth sign is unconscious care. This is the most honest form of love. They protect you in ways they don't notice themselves. They worry without admitting worry. They offer solutions instead of comfort because that's all they know how to give. Their love speaks through actions because words feel too dangerous. When someone who avoids attachment starts caring without realizing it, that is the soul revealing its truth before the mind can censor it. Here is the wisdom. Many forget, love is not always mutual timing. It is mutual fear meeting at different speeds. The avoidant is not heartless. They are guarded, and guards only exist where something valuable is being protected. Do not chase their confession. Do not force their awakening. Love rooted in divine order unfolds, not demands. If it is real, patience will not weaken it. Presence will not scare it away. Truth does not need pressure. It needs space. And remember this above all. You are not meant to prove your worth to someone who is still learning how to receive it. If they are falling, let them fall at their own pace. What is aligned will not require you to shrink, beg, or wait in pain. Love that is meant for you will meet you in peace, not confusion. And when an avoidant finally admits what their soul already knows, it will not be because you convinced them, but because they became brave enough to face themselves. When someone who typically keeps others at arm's length begins to show up consistently in your life, it signals a profound internal shift happening beneath the surface. For a person who avoids emotional closeness, presence is never casual or accidental. It is intentional, even if unspoken. At first, you may notice this presence as something subtle. Perhaps they return your messages a little faster, or they seem to linger longer in conversations. But these small, quiet acts of showing up carry immense significance. They mark the beginning of an opening, a softening of the boundaries that once kept them distant and unreachable. Consistency, in this context, is not about grand gestures or declarations of love. It is about the sacred rhythm of reliability, the silent promise that, despite fears and defenses, they will be there again. It is an unspoken commitment, woven through actions rather than words. For someone who guards their heart carefully, this kind of steadfastness is revolutionary. It means they are beginning to trust you, not just with their time, but with their emotional safety. This is not a step they take lightly, because it involves surrendering a part of themselves that has long been protected by walls of avoidance. This consistent presence also reflects a deep internal transformation. The avoidant individual, who once equated closeness with loss of freedom, starts to realize that true freedom includes connection, not exclusion. The paradox is that in choosing to be consistently present, they exercise the greatest form of freedom, the freedom to be vulnerable. This choice requires immense courage because it challenges the ingrained belief that emotional distance is the only way to stay safe. When they come back again and again, it is as if their soul is quietly whispering that you are someone worth that risk. Another layer of this consistency is that it allows space for healing, not just for the avoidant individual, but for the relationship itself. Avoidance often stems from past wounds, from pain that taught them to protect themselves by shutting others out. But when they show up regularly, they create an opportunity for old fears to be faced and gently dismantled. You become a living testament that closeness does not always bring harm, that trust can grow over time, and that connection can coexist with autonomy. It is important to recognize that this presence will not always be perfect or steady in the way you might wish. The avoidant person may still pull away at times or seem hesitant, but their pattern is slowly changing. Each return, each choice to engage rather than escape, is a seed planted in the soil of relationship, and seeds grow best with patience and understanding, not pressure or demands. You might wonder why this is such a hidden sign. The reason is that this presence often feels ordinary on the surface, just someone showing up, just someone paying attention. But in the realm of avoidance, ordinary becomes extraordinary. It defies the pattern of withdrawal. It challenges the narrative of isolation. It says, without words, I am here. I am willing to be near you. This quiet consistency also invites you to deepen your own awareness of love's many forms. Not all love is loud or dramatic. Sometimes, love is a steady heartbeat beneath the noise of fear and uncertainty. It is the gentle rhythm that reassures you that you are not alone, even when the world feels chaotic. When you notice this in someone who has been emotionally unavailable, it is a sacred invitation to walk with them through their journey, not as a rescuer, but as a compassionate witness. In the grand design of relationships, this consistency is a profound expression of divine timing and wisdom. It honors the truth that every soul has its own pace of awakening. The avoidant's gradual shift toward presence is a sacred unfolding, a slow dance of trust being born from fear. When you recognize and honor this, you align yourself with the deeper truth that love is patient, love is kind, and love does not force itself upon the hesitant, but waits gently and faithfully until the heart is ready to open. So, when you see that someone who once kept you at a distance now choosing to be there again and again, understand that this is one of the most powerful signs of love you can receive. It is a testament to the invisible work happening within them, the quiet courage it takes to rewrite old patterns, and the subtle yet profound way love begins to root itself in a guarded soul. The silence that once defined the space between you and someone who avoids emotional closeness begins to transform in ways that are both subtle and profound. For those who habitually withdraw, silence often serves as a shield, a protective barrier against vulnerability and intimacy. But when they start to fall, this silence takes on a new meaning. It no longer represents distance or disinterest. Instead, it becomes a form of presence, a quiet way of staying connected, even when words feel too risky or unsafe to share. This transformation of silence is one of the most hidden yet powerful signs that someone is falling for you without admitting it. You may notice that they don't rush to fill every pause in conversation or avoid talking altogether. Instead, their silence seems intentional, almost reverent, as if they are listening deeply, not just to your words but to the energy between you. It is a silence that holds space, a silence that says, "I am here with you," even when they cannot fully express it. This kind of silence is not empty. It is rich with unspoken care and attention. For the avoidant, emotional expression is often fraught with discomfort. Words can feel like traps, vulnerability like exposure. So rather than risking awkward or overwhelming communication, they retreat into silence. But falling for someone changes this dynamic, because silence becomes a safe way to engage without risking too much. They might watch how you speak, notice your moods, and remember details you shared, all without saying much in return. This quiet observation is a form of emotional investment that speaks volumes to those who learn to read it. What makes this transformation particularly profound is that it reveals a shift in how they relate to connection itself. Instead of using silence to shut down or withdraw, they use it to stay present in a way that feels manageable. It's as if they are testing the waters of closeness, dipping a toe in without plunging fully. And in this tentative presence, you find a new kind of intimacy, one built not on the abundance of words, but on the quality of attention. Their silence becomes a way of witnessing your existence without judgment or demand. This kind of silence also offers a mirror for your own understanding of love and communication. It invites you to develop patience and compassion, to learn that not all connection must be loud or explicit to be real. Sometimes the deepest bonds are forged in quiet spaces where words fall away and pure presence remains. When you nor this silence without trying to fill it or push it away, you create a safe container for the avoidant's heart to unfold in its own time. It's important to remember that this silence is not the same as neglect or indifference. It's a different language of love, one that requires attunement and sensitivity to perceive. The avoidant person might not say "I care" or "I'm thinking about you," but their silence carries those messages anyway, woven in the pauses between words and the steady way they remain close despite their fears. This kind of love often feels more like a gentle undercurrent than a crashing wave, but it is no less real or meaningful. As you witness this silence evolving, you may also notice moments when it breaks open, when they unexpectedly share a thought, reveal a feeling, or simply acknowledge your presence with a look or a small gesture. These moments are breakthroughs, delicate and significant, because they show that the silence is not a wall but a threshold. Crossing it requires courage, and every time they do, it marks a victory over their own inner fears. In the broader scheme of love, this transformation of silence carries a spiritual lesson. It teaches us that communication is more than just words. It is about presence, attention, and the willingness to be seen and to see another without needing to explain or perform. The avoidant's evolving silence is a sacred reminder that sometimes the most profound connections happen beyond language, in the spaces where two souls simply exist alongside each other with quiet acceptance. When you come to understand this, you realize that their silence is not a void to be filled, but a gift to be treasured. It is the sound of a heart slowly opening, a soul learning to trust, and a love that chooses to stay, even when it cannot yet fully speak. In this quiet presence, you find the gentle truth of their feeling. GS, and the promise that when words finally come, they will carry the weight of something deeply felt and genuinely transformative. The need for control is often the unseen fortress that an avoidant person builds around their heart. It is a defense mechanism born from past experiences, perhaps pain, disappointment, or loss, that taught them to guard their emotions fiercely. Control gives them a sense of safety, a way to manage the unpredictability of relationships by setting boundaries, avoiding vulnerability, and keeping others at a distance. But when they begin to fall for someone, that fortress slowly begins to show cracks. Control, once absolute, starts to loosen, revealing a subtle but profound vulnerability beneath. This shift is rarely sudden or dramatic. It often happens in small, almost imperceptible ways. Maybe they share a private thought without immediately retracting it, or they admit uncertainty where before there was only certainty. They might pause longer than usual before deflecting an emotional question or allow you to see a flicker of their true feelings before quickly hiding it again. These moments, brief as they may be, are like faint signals emerging from the depths of a guarded soul. They represent an internal struggle, a silent battle between the desire to protect oneself and the longing to connect more deeply. When control starts to give way, it is a sign that the avoidant is wrestling with fear of being hurt, fear of losing independence, fear of exposing a vulnerable part of themselves that they have kept hidden for so long. But within that fear lies courage, the courage to risk uncertainty, to face discomfort, and to let down the shield, even if only slightly. This act of softening is, in itself, a profound act of love. It means they are choosing connection over isolation, presence over withdrawal, despite the discomfort it brings. It is important to recognize that this loosening of control does not mean the avoidant has fully surrendered to vulnerability. Often, it is tentative and guarded. They may quickly retreat if they feel too exposed, or they might try to regain control by withdrawing again. Yet, the very fact that these cracks appear is significant. It means their emotional landscape is shifting. They are learning, bit by bit, that vulnerability does not always lead to harm, and that it can be a bridge to deeper intimacy rather than a threat to their autonomy. This process also reflects a deeper spiritual lesson about trust. Control is often a manifestation of a lack of trust in oneself, trust in others, and trust in the flow of life. When an avoidant person begins to loosen control, they are, in essence, beginning to cultivate trust. They are taking a leap of faith into the unknown terrain of emotional openness. And while this leap may be fraught with hesitation and guarded steps, it is a sacred journey toward wholeness. From your perspective, witnessing this struggle can be both challenging and deeply moving. You may find yourself longing for them to open up fully, to drop their defenses completely. But the wisdom lies in honoring the pace at which they can safely release control. Pressuring or pushing too hard can reinforce their fear and cause them to retreat further. Instead, your presence, patience, and acceptance create a safe container for their vulnerability to emerge naturally. Love, in this sense, becomes the gentle force that encourages growth rather than demands change. The subtle moments when they show vulnerability, perhaps sharing a fear, expressing doubt, or simply allowing themselves to be seen in an imperfect state, are precious gifts. They reveal that beneath the armor is a heart willing to risk connection, a soul ready to be known despite the risks. Each of these moments builds a foundation of trust that can gradually transform the relationship from guarded to genuine. Ultimately, this loosening of control speaks to a universal truth. True connection requires the courage to be vulnerable. It is a divine principle that love flourishes not in certainty and control, but in openness and surrender. The avoidance journey toward vulnerability is a mirror for all of us, reminding us that strength is not in resistance, but in the willingness to embrace our fears and imperfections. When you recognize and honor this process, you align yourself with the sacred rhythm of transformation. You witness a heart learning to trust, a soul slowly unfurling, and a love emerging from the depths of guardedness. In this dance between control and vulnerability, the avoidant is not just falling for you, they are falling into themselves, discovering the courage to be fully alive and open to love. When someone who has long cherished independence begins to open a space for another within their life, it signals a profound shift in their inner world. For an avoidant person, independence is not just a preference, but a protective shield, an essential part of their identity that keeps emotional risks at bay. To them, closeness often feels like a threat to that independence, a force that could unravel the carefully constructed boundaries they rely on to feel safe. So, when independence softens into shared space, it reveals an important, though often hidden sign of affection, the willingness to include you in the sacred realm of their personal life. This inclusion is not about dependence or losing oneself in another, but about recognizing that connection and autonomy can coexist. It is a delicate balance, a dance between holding on and letting go. The avoidant individual begins to invite you into parts of their world that were once fiercely private, perhaps their thoughts, routines, or future plans, without feeling overwhelmed or threatened. This gesture speaks volumes because it shows they trust you enough to let their guard down, if only slightly, and to create room for you alongside their well-established independence. In many ways, this transition is a profound act of courage. For someone who has avoided attachment out of fear or past pain, allowing another person into their space is a risk. It means expanding the boundaries they have so carefully maintained and acknowledging that connection can enhance rather than diminish their sense of self. This is a subtle but powerful declaration that the relationship is no longer just a casual interaction, but a meaningful part of their life. The invitation to share space may manifest in simple ways, inviting you to join them in activities they value, seeking your opinion on decisions, or even just checking in regularly. These small acts are not just about practicalities. They symbolize emotional investment. When someone who once guarded their independence begins to weave your presence into their daily life, it shows that they are integrating you into their identity. They are no longer just a separate individual moving through their world, but someone who holds significance and presence within it. This shift also reflects a deeper change in how they perceive relationships. Instead of viewing connection as a potential loss of freedom, they begin to see it as an expansion of their life experience, a shared journey rather than a limitation. This change in perspective often comes with a growing awareness that true independence is not isolation, but the ability to engage authentically with others while maintaining a strong sense of self. It is essential to approach this shared space with respect and understanding, because for an avoidant individual, the line between inclusion and feeling overwhelmed can be very thin. They need the freedom to maintain their autonomy even as they open up to you. Encouraging their independence while gently nurturing connection creates a safe environment where love can flourish naturally. Pushing too hard for closeness may trigger retreat, but honoring their pace fosters trust and deepens intimacy. This process also invites you to reflect on your own understanding of love and freedom. It challenges the misconception that intimacy means losing oneself. Instead, it reveals that love, at its highest expression, supports growth, encourages individuality, and celebrates the unique space each person occupies. When an avoidant person softens their independence to include you, they are practicing this kind of love, one that holds space for both connection and personal freedom. The gradual creation of shared space is a sacred unfolding of trust. It is an acknowledgement that you matter enough to be a part of their life, in a way that goes beyond surface interactions. This inclusion is often invisible to others, but deeply felt by those who know how to recognize it. It carries the silent message that despite fears and defenses, they want you close, not to control or possess, but to journey alongside. In the divine dance of relationships, this softening of independence into shared space is a beautiful manifestation of love's power to transform isolation into union. It honors the complexity of human needs, both for freedom and connection, and demonstrates that true intimacy arises when these needs are balanced with care and respect. When you witness this transformation, you are witnessing a heart opening gently, a soul learning to trust, and a love evolving in its most authentic form. Sometimes the most profound signs of love come not from conscious intention, but from the quiet, unconscious ways someone begins to care for an avoidant son, whose heart is often guarded behind layers of self-protection. This unconscious care is a powerful signal that their feelings are deepening, even if they themselves have not yet admitted it. It is a care that emerges instinctively, through subtle actions, unnoticed gestures, and the small ways they prioritize your well-being without consciously acknowledging the emotional weight behind them. Avoidants often struggle to express affection in conventional terms. Words of love may feel foreign or threatening, and direct emotional expression might trigger their fears of vulnerability. Yet beneath this surface reluctance, their heart is quietly attentive. They care through what they do rather than what they say. They might fix things for you without being asked, remember important details you mentioned in passing, or show up when you need support, even if they don't openly declare their concern. These acts are often automatic, not calculated, and reveal a deep emotional investment that bypasses their conscious defenses. This unconscious care is significant because it reveals a heart that is beginning to soften. While the mind might resist acknowledging feelings, the soul communicates through action. It is a reminder that love is not always about grand declarations, but about consistent, sometimes unnoticed, care. This form of love often carries an authenticity that words cannot match, because it flows naturally and without pretense. What makes this kind of care especially poignant is the internal conflict it exposes. On one hand, the avoidance fear urges them to maintain distance, to guard themselves against potential pain. On the other hand, their emerging feelings compel them to nurture and protect the person they care about, even if that nurturing feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar. This tension creates moments where their true feelings slip through the cracks of air defenses, revealing vulnerability beneath the armor. You may notice that their care is expressed in practical ways, offering solutions when you are struggling, quietly watching over your well-being, or subtly adjusting their behavior to make you more comfortable. These actions might not be accompanied by emotional declarations, but they are deeply meaningful. They say, "I am here for you," without the need for words. This kind of care speaks to the heart's language, which often transcends the limitations of verbal communication. Recognizing and appreciating this unconscious care requires sensitivity and patience. It challenges the expectation that love must always be explicit and demands that you tune into the quieter rhythms of the relationship. When you learn to see these subtle signs, you begin to understand the avoidant's heart in a more compassionate and nuanced way. You realize that, beneath their reticence lies a well of feeling that expresses itself through action rather than speech. This unconscious care also carries a spiritual dimension. It reflects the divine principle that love is a force that moves through us, sometimes beyond our conscious control. It teaches us that love can be gentle, patient, and quietly persistent, working in the background to nurture connection even when fear tries to silence it. The avoidant's unconscious care is a testament to the resilience of the human heart and its capacity to love despite obstacles. It is important to honor this care without demanding more than the avoidant can give at the moment. Pressuring them for emotional expression or explicit commitment may provoke retreat rather than openness. Instead, embracing their way of showing love encourages them to feel safe enough to gradually reveal more of themselves. Your acceptance becomes the soil in which their guarded heart can begin to bloom. Ultimately, this unconscious care is a sacred gift. It is the hidden current beneath the surface of avoidance, quietly pulling two souls closer, even when fear insists on separation. When you recognize it, you hold space for a love that is real and evolving, a love that, though unspoken, carries the promise of deeper connection and eventual revelation. In witnessing this, you honor the profound truth that love often grows in silence and in the small, unconscious acts of care that quietly shape the heart's journey. It is an invitation to trust in the slow unfolding of affection, knowing that beneath the guarded exterior lies a heart learning to love in its own time and way. Thank you for your time and openness. May these insights bring light to your journey, wishing you peace and courage as you embrace love in all its beautiful forms. Goodbye for now. In the quiet dance of connection, love often reveals itself in ways we least expect, through presence instead of words, through silence instead of declarations, and through subtle shifts rather than grand gestures. When someone who has guarded their heart begins to soften, it is a sacred unfolding, a divine invitation to witness vulnerability emerging from fear. Understanding these hidden signs is not about forcing admissions or chasing confessions, but about honoring the delicate rhythms of trust, patience, and gentle presence. Love that is true respects the journey of the soul, allowing it to open in its own time and own way. When we embrace this wisdom, we align ourselves with a deeper truth, that real connection is not about possession or control, but about creating space for authentic growth and mutual care. Thank you for sharing this moment with me and opening your heart to these reflections. May your path be filled with understanding, compassion, and the courage to love deeply. Goodbye, and take care on your journey ahead.